It is 3 o'clock in the morning in Sunnyvale, California. Inside Yahoo's headquarters, the servers are humming quietly, processing billions of requests, emails, search queries, calendar syncs. On a monitor deep inside the Network Operations Center, a single log entry flashes. It is an anomaly so minor that almost anyone would miss it, a digital fingerprint generated without a matching password event. Someone, or something, has just bypassed the front door of the Internet's oldest titan. No alarms blare. No sirens ring through the empty hallways. But inside the core architecture, a silent intruder has just forged a master cryptographic key, a secret token that tells the system, I am whoever I claim to be. Across the globe, 3 billion human lives are linked to these servers. Political dissidents in Moscow. Defense contractors in Washington. Board members of Fortune 500 companies. Ordinary people storing family photos, tax documents, and personal secrets. None of them know that their digital identities have just been quietly unlatched from the inside. This wasn't a standard cyber attack. There were no ransomware notes, no defaced homepages, no sudden system crashes designed to taunt engineers. This was a ghost operation. The attackers didn't want to break the machine, they wanted to live inside it, totally invisible, reading every thought, every secret, and every private message as fast as users could type them. And for years, the world's largest web company would let them do it without realizing they were already gone. To understand how 3 billion accounts fell without a sound, you have to understand the invisible glue holding the modern internet together, authentication cookies. When you log into your email, the system hands your web browser a temporary digital passcard. As long as you hold that passcard, you can click from page to page without re-entering your password. Inside Yahoo's proprietary code lay a deeply guarded trade secret, the cryptographic algorithm used to mint these passcards. If an attacker could steal that source code, they wouldn't need to guess passwords, they wouldn't need to send phishing emails or crack encryption keys. They could simply manufacture their own passcards out of thin air. That is precisely what happened in late 2014. The intruders systematically hunted through Yahoo's source code repositories until they found the core library responsible for minting cookies. Once copied, the attackers built a custom tool, a digital master key that could generate a valid authentication cookie for any target on Earth. All they needed was a username. They typed it into their tool, generated a fake cookie, pasted it into an ordinary browser, and refreshed the page. In an instant, the intruder was inside the victim's inbox, fully authenticated, completely undetected, viewing private emails as if sitting at the victim's desk. The system believed the user had logged in legally, because the key was mathematically perfect. The perimeter hadn't been smashed, it had been rendered obsolete. In July of 2012, Yahoo was bleeding. Google was dominating search, Facebook was consuming social media, and Yahoo needed a miracle to survive. Enter Marissa Mayer, a superstar executive pulled directly from the upper ranks of Google to reinvent the legendary web pioneer. Mayer launched a total war for market relevance. She spent over $1 billion acquiring sleek startups like Tumblr, overhauled user interfaces, and demanded rapid product rollouts. Her mission was singular: turn Yahoo back into an indispensable daily habit for hundreds of millions of people. But behind the polished public appearances and high-stakes acquisitions lay a growing tension inside the executive suite. Product speed was prioritized over infrastructure stability. Redesigning webmail took precedence over auditing legacy databases, and security engineers found themselves pushing against a wall of corporate urgency. When security features threatened to add friction to the user experience, like forcing users to re-enter passwords or enabling strict multi-factor authentication, they were frequently delayed or pushed down the roadmap. The drive to win the consumer market meant that the digital foundation was left dangerously fragile. Yahoo was building a hypermodern skyscraper while refusing to check if the concrete foundation had already begun to crack. Deep within Yahoo's corporate structure sat an elite group of cybersecurity researchers known internally as the Paranoids. These were veteran hackers, reverse engineers, and threat analysts whose sole job was to defend the company's vast infrastructure from external ruin. For years, the paranoids pleaded for resources. They saw foreign state actors constantly probing their external firewalls. They knew that legacy software, systems running code untouched since the late 1990s, was sitting wide open like an unlocked backdoor in a storm. Chief Information Security Officer Alex Stamos fought intensely for mandatory password resets and aggressive encryption protocols across all services. But every request faced pushback from business leads who feared losing active users to rivals if security procedures became too annoying. In boardroom meetings, security warnings were viewed as alarmist roadblocks to profitability. The paranoids were told to focus on small fixes rather than expensive, sweeping architecture overhauls. The atmosphere became so poisonous that internal friction escalated into open frustration. When security professionals are forced to negotiate for basic defenses, catastrophic breach is not an unexpected accident, it is a mathematical certainty waiting for a trigger. While executive leadership focused on quarterly metrics in Sunnyvale, a young man sat in an apartment halfway across the world, staring at a wall of glowing code. His name was Alexei Bilan, known in the criminal underworld by the alias Mag. Born in Riga, Latvia, Bilan was not a state employee or an academic genius. He was a ruthless cyber mercenary, a digital burglar who specialized in breaking into high-profile corporate databases, stealing user lists, and selling them on darknet forums for massive sums. By 2013, Bilan was already one of the most wanted cybercriminals on the planet. The United States had indicted him for massive breaches against major e-commerce platforms. Interpol issued red notices. Federal agents were actively tracking his global movements. Facing imminent capture in Europe, Bilan fled eastward into Russia, where he vanished behind non-extradition borders. But instead of laying low and keeping quiet, Bilan looked for a target so massive that it would secure his wealth forever. He set his sights on the crown jewel of webmail services. Yahoo's user database. He didn't just want data, he wanted complete, sustained access to the personal identity of nearly everyone online. Most fugitive hackers who flee to Russia face a stark choice: prison or cooperation. When Alexei Bilan crossed into Russian territory, he did not escape law enforcement, he was intercepted by Center 11 of the Federal Security Service, the FSB, the successor agency to the Soviet KGB. 2 intelligence officers took direct control of Bilan's operations. Dmitry Dokuchev, a former hacker-turned-intelligence handler, and his superior Igor Sushin. Instead of placing Bilan in handcuffs for his international criminal warrants, the FSB officers offered him a bargain. They would provide him with total immunity inside Russia, protection from the FBI, access to infrastructure, and freedom to line his own pockets. In exchange for one thing, he had to act as an off-the-books proxy for state espionage. This was the ultimate marriage of cybercrime and nation-state intelligence. The FSB had the geopolitical motives and the diplomatic shield. Bilan had the raw, aggressive hacking talent to crack open American tech companies. Together, they plotted an operation that would turn Yahoo servers into a massive, remote intelligence-gathering listening post for Russian state interests. Armed with state-backed coordination, Alexei Bilan struck Yahoo's internal network. He didn't smash through the front wall, he used stolen employee credentials to pivot through administrative access points, moving quietly from server to server over weeks of careful reconnaissance. His primary objective was Yahoo's user database, known internally as the UDB. This vast repository held account management details for hundreds of millions of people, including real names, recovery email addresses, phone numbers, encrypted passwords, and security questions with their answers. Bilan located the UDB, created a silent mirror of its core indexes, and began exfiltrating massive files. But the FSB handlers didn't care about ordinary users, they were hunting for specific targets. They fed Bilan lists of names. Russian government officials who were using commercial email, opposition journalists, foreign diplomats, American military officers, and senior financial managers. Armed with forged authentication cookies, Bilan walked directly into those specific accounts. He read private communications in real time, stole contact lists, and downloaded sensitive attachments, without leaving a single trace on the victim's screen. While the FSB utilized the breach for geopolitical espionage, Alexei Bilan was running his own side hustle inside Yahoo's compromised network. State actors wanted intelligence, but Bilan wanted hard, untraceable cash. To turn compromised accounts into profit without blowing his cover, Bilan engineered a clever scheme. He targeted commercial web traffic, altering Yahoo's search engine redirects to stealthily funnel millions of users away from legitimate shopping sites toward fraudulent pharmaceutical sites, earning millions in affiliate commissions. He systematically searched through compromised inbox backup files, looking for credit card numbers, personal financial records, and online banking receipts. Anything valuable was harvested and sold on black market forums. He even stole a user database containing over 30 million email addresses, using Yahoo's own infrastructure to blast out massive spam campaigns promoting fake drugs and malware links. He was conducting multi-million-dollar cyber fraud operations from within the very servers responsible for protecting those users, operating with absolute impunity while his state handlers looked the other way. By mid-2016, rumors began circulating through darknet cybercrime channels. A seller using the moniker Peace of Mind posted an advertisement offering to sell a massive database, 200 million Yahoo accounts, for 3 bitcoins, worth about $1,800 at the time. When security researchers bought the sample data and alerted the press, Yahoo's internal security team was forced to conduct a deep forensic audit. They initially thought this was just a minor leak of old data, but what they uncovered inside their legacy server archives was a horror story. The 2014 state-sponsored breach wasn't the first time they had been hit, it wasn't even the biggest. In August of 2013, an entirely separate, unidentified hacking group had compromised the network and stolen the complete user database for every single account in existence. Not 50 million accounts. Not 500 million. 3 billion accounts, every email user, every Flickr account, every Yahoo Group profile created since the founding of the company. The entire digital history of the web pioneer had been silently copied and removed 3 years earlier, and Yahoo had not noticed a single gigabyte of missing data. The discovery of the breaches could not have come at a worse moment for Yahoo's leadership. In mid-2016, Yahoo was locked in high-stakes negotiations to sell its core internet business to telecom giant Verizon for $4.83 billion. This sale was Marissa Mayer's final play to deliver value to shareholders and gracefully exit a failing media empire. Millions of dollars in executive bonuses rested on closing the deal before the end of the year. Inside executive boardrooms, panicked meetings were held behind closed doors. Legal teams, security specialists, and corporate communications leads debated what needed to be disclosed and when, revealing that billions of accounts had been compromised by Russian spies and criminal groups could instantly vaporize the deal. For months, the company maintained public silence while legal terms were drafted. Memos circulated internally evaluating the fallout of disclosure. But as external security researchers continued to analyze dark web samples, the pressure built to an explosive peak. The secret could no longer be contained within corporate boardrooms, the truth was about to detonate in public. On September 22, 2016, Yahoo officially broke its silence. The company published a public statement admitting that a state-sponsored actor had stolen information associated with at least 500 million user accounts back in late 2014. It was, at the time, the largest acknowledged data breach in human history. The news sent shockwaves through the tech world, regulatory bodies, and Wall Street. Users were instructed to change passwords and security questions 2 years after their accounts had been breached. Senate hearings were convened. Lawmakers demanded answers. How had a premier tech firm lost 500 million accounts to foreign intelligence officers without knowing it for 24 months? But the real bomb hadn't dropped yet. Just 3 months later, in December 2016, Yahoo was forced to make a second, far more humiliating confession, disclosing the 2013 breach. The initial figure of 500 million was wrong. In October 2017, after being acquired, the true number was finally acknowledged: 3 billion accounts, the total, absolute compromise of the entire user ecosystem. On March 15, 2017, the United States Department of Justice unsealed a bombshell 47-count criminal indictment. For the first time in history, federal prosecutors formally charged state intelligence officers. Russian FSB agents Igor Sushin and Dmitry Dokuchev, alongside criminal hackers Alexei Bilan and a mercenary named Karim Baratov. Karim Baratov, a 22-year-old Canadian citizen living in a lavish home paid for by cybercrime proceeds, acted as a hired gun for the FSB when targets were using non-Yahoo email providers like Gmail or Outlook. While Bilan and the FSB officers remained safely in Russia beyond the reach of extradition, Baratov was arrested by Canadian tactical police officers at his home in Ontario. He was eventually extradited to California, pled guilty, and was sentenced to 5 years in federal prison. The Department of Justice indictment mapped out the entire anatomy of the hack, exposing line by line how a nation-state intelligence service turned a private American corporation into a global surveillance tool. The fallout for Yahoo was catastrophic and permanent. Verizon renegotiated the acquisition terms, knocking $350 million directly off the purchase price, a massive financial penalty for failure to secure basic infrastructure. Marissa Mayer resigned, forfeiting her annual equity bonus, and was called to testify before the United States Senate, facing hostile questioning from lawmakers about corporate negligence and systemic failure. Yahoo was merged with AOL into a short-lived subsidiary named Oath, stripped of its former glory, its stock ticker removed from Wall Street boards, and its brand reduced to a cautionary tale taught in business schools and cybersecurity seminars. Security audits revealed that basic defenses, like using modern salted hashing algorithms for passwords and restricting internal access permissions, could have prevented or mitigated the breach entirely. Corporate leaders had traded infrastructure health for temporary profit metrics, and paid for it with the total destruction of brand trust. The Yahoo Data Breach fundamentally changed how humanity views digital privacy. It proved that in the modern world, a breach doesn't happen when a server crashes, it happens when everything seems completely normal on the surface. 3 billion accounts. Names, birth dates, security questions, phone numbers, backup emails, and forged session keys, floating through darknet markets and foreign intelligence databases for years, completely unmonitored. Today, bits and pieces of that stolen data still circulate through private criminal channels, sold, traded, and cross-referenced with modern leaks to crack into bank accounts, corporate systems, and government networks worldwide. Alexei Bilan remains on the FBI's most wanted list, living freely under state protection in Russia. The master keys he forged are gone, but the lesson remains: when a tech giant chooses silence over security, the price is never paid by the executives in the boardroom. It is paid, quietly and endlessly, by everyone else.